response, their shock tactics, than Al-Shabaab attacks. Both methods are blurry. And Athman Mumina says charity begins at home. If the disciplined forces are not friendly with their own Kenyan brothers, how will they get information? But moving on now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has for the second time in as many days urged Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka to abandon the opposition and join his camp to position himself to team up with his deputy William Ruto for the 2022 election. Meanwhile, National Super Alliance presidential candidate Raila Odinga moved into President Uhuru's home county of Kiambu with the message that contrary to propaganda and fear-mongering peddled against him over the years, he was an all-inclusive leader who harbored no ill will against people from any region.
Watuma kwa ndugu yangu Kalonzo pia akipitia hapa. Umwambie bwana waachane na huyo mjamaa wa kitendawili. Anampoteza. Akuje tufanye kazi pamoja. Hili nilikuwa nasema Kibaki tosha. Sikujua yeye ni Mkikuyu. Sikujua yeye ni Mkikuyu. Alipopata ajali mimi nikasema kapteni yetu ameumia, lakini mpira yataendelea. Mkaniita mtongoria jamba. Sio mtongoria jamba. Imekuwaje sasa Raila imekuwa kimundu muguruki?
All right, I think I'll begin with you, Roslyn. Ladies first.
Yes.
I feel like getting a bowl of popcorn and some red wine or something and sitting down and just watching this political circus unfold. What do you make of the invitations and the non-RSVPing going around?
Yeah, I think this is a home stretch for campaigns, and all the politicians are saying they're heading towards the finish line. And your best bet will make you get the best numbers. So for the president, he knows that when he opened up to Raila's deputy in his own backyard, then his people will see that he really actually wants to work with the Kamba community. Because remember, in 2013, they voted for COD. But before that, they were in G7, and Kalonzo was part of the G7 that just didn't work before he went back to Raila. So for Uhuru, I think he's just trying to woo him back and say, just come back with a promise of 2022, but I don't think Kalonzo will go for number 2. When you look at Raila again, charity begins at home. His father was with Kenyatta during the independence time, and I think for him it's just going back to the people that his father worked with, and he has also worked with the Kenyatta family to just tell them, I'm not your enemy. It's only that the words that I use are twisted against me. But in politics, that plays out. Yeah. Give me a chance and see what I can do.
Right, and I think I mentioned it on this show, I think it was last week, and everybody came down on my head like a ton of bricks about the fact that these people have all worked together at different times in their political careers. They've been on the same side, in fact, and now some of them are on opposing sides. And I proposed a government of national unity, which was shot down. But Rajab, what are your thoughts about this? Because we know that Kalonzo has worked in, they have been in the same kind of leadership positions with both Uhuru and Ruto before.
But that one does not make them look the same, because everyone is different, and you can change your ideology, your thinking on the way. So you can't say and lump them together and say all of them are the same.
Is this a matter of changing ideology, or it's just political expedience?
Partly because I can't really go into their minds, but I can see what they say and what they stand for before. So you can't just lump them together and say all of them are reformists or all of them are anti-reformist. But for the wooing of voters, I think it's a time to seduce voters. So people are on the ground. And I don't think if it's too late for the president to tell Kalonzo at this moment to come and join him. Kalonzo is better off now as a DP, with the hope of being the DP, than waiting for 2022.
Right. So, Edward, are you seduced by what's going on?
Well, I'm amused. I'm amused. I mean, the politics of procrastination in the country has never come at a better time in terms of we have to, post-date the promise for good things. But I think the interesting thing about this whole thing is that it is not an isolated event. I mean, you go to a country like Israel. I mean, there's always the musical chairs. One time, Benjamin Netanyahu is there. The next time, he's out and he's coming in. So political recycling does not necessarily mean that it's something which is unique to our context. It takes place in the whole world. But I think the question for me will be, to what extent will the numbers play out? Because at the end of the day, you can do all the charm, but will she come back home?
That is the question on everybody's lips. But my thing about this is I don't think we're having an ideological war or even a reformist, non-reformist type comparison. I'm just saying that these people are politicians at heart, and it's a political contest. So we can actually lump them into that same group of being politicians who have a goal in mind.
We are still at a Tillian state.
I can't support that issue of lumping all of them together because everyone stands for something different. We've seen the Jubilee regime under Uhuru Kenyatta, what it has delivered. And we know, everyone can say, they can see it. We've seen what Raila stood for all throughout his political life. So you can judge him differently when you don't just put them on the same pedestal and say they're same. Now, at the moment, if you say all of them are in the government, I've never seen Raila being the president. I've seen now, even Ruto has never been a president. So you can't say they were all in
But
government.
Raja, you talked about what do they stand for. What do they stand for?
Yes.
One,
if they can
all of them
switch
have read
sides.
manifestos.
Yes.
Have you read
I have read their manifestos,
manifestos?
and I can't find ideology. I can find
different?
promises of projects.
No, not promise of project. I've seen a transformation agenda on historical injustices. I've seen that. That's an agenda.
How is that
Land
implementable?
issues. It's implementable. We already have a TGRC report. If we have a goodwill, we can sort out all our land issues that are born of
Rosalind,
contention
do we have
every
goodwill?
election year.
Do we have goodwill?
I don't think we have the political goodwill. And I also disagree with Rajab when he says that the politicians stand on ideologies. We've seen our politicians in Kenya. If today Kalonzo is better off, if Uhuru gives
What's
Kalonzo today a running mate, depending on where your bread is buttered
What's
most,
an ideology?
that is what
you can stand on an oppressive ideology, and you can stand on a
if our leaders
ideology.
were standing on ideologies, then we will have not seen any go for just positions.
Let me call halftime because we are staying with Uhuru and Raila. Because President Uhuru Kenyatta and NASA presidential candidate Raila Odinga will not be attending the presidential debate on July 10th. According to Jubilee Party Vice Chairman David Murathe, the president will not attend since he was not consulted on the matter. And according to senior advisor Salim Lone, Raila will also not attend the debate under the current proposed format and stipulation. The first presidential debate is slated for Monday, July 10th, while running mates will argue their cases on July 17th. The final presidential debate is scheduled for Monday, July 24th. Now, how important are these debates? Are these debates really important in terms of swaying how voters think about the issues, or are they just a platform to give them another campaign platform, Roslyn?
I think the debates are important based on how they're organized. If you remember the 2013 live debates, somebody like Dida got more votes because of the way he articulated his issues. But if you listen to Murathe, his concerns maybe for the presidency, because they were saying if you bring a president to this debate, we are having 8 candidates. Even just the opening remarks, the one candidate will have 30 minutes. That means the president might stand there for 1 hour just waiting to again contribute. And for them, they think that if it is a matter of one-on-one, let them have somebody that they have equal stake to argue out their issues with.
But if you're a presidential candidate, don't you have equal stake by virtue of being on the ballot? Rajab, you're shaking your head.
It can never be, because you are looking for a false balance, which can never be in media.
It's not a false balance.
That's a false balance. Look at these guys,
even kill.
the two guys, the two contenders, NASA and Jubilee. The command, the following they have, the structures they have. Others are just, I can say they're there for publicity, they're there just to joyride. People know even manifesto, putting them on the same podium with these two contenders.
By virtue of the
You're
fact
even
that
denying the public the right to judge, because anyway, at the end of the day, we'll have either Jubilee or NASA carrying the day.
That doesn't take away from the fact that they're presidential candidates who needs to get the word out there, Edward.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, if you're talking about a level playing ground, then ensure that the debate attracts all. But the problem, as I've said, is we have a Tillian state. A Tillian state which still thinks in terms of political formations from a tribal basis. So to the extent that we can actually think about, trying to instill a level of ideology and now give even these candidates a platform now to be able to throw out and spur their ideas. I think it's challenging. I think we are still democracy in growth, but at the end of the day, if the chance for a presidential debate is there, then I think the president is not coming in terms of his presidency, but he's coming as a candidate.
Exactly.
So ideally, what Murathe is actually alluding is neither here nor there, because he doesn't speak on behalf of the president.
But remember that Lone has said the same thing about
I think you missed it. What Murathe, their fears is these guys will not have enough time to really articulate their issues. If you have 8 candidates, others are just joyriders coming in. When will you get time even to interrogate issues? Unless you're looking or you're after entertainment.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. That's the basis.
The content of what they promise to deliver will not be realized when you have 8 candidates.
Yes.
Well, the onus is on them to make sure that they have their points at their fingertips and they can explain their manifestos and their plans in that short period.
Ideally, what you should have now deal with is now the organization of the debate. Is it possible that we could actually stagger it and say you will have a certain level of balloting that will allow 4 candidates to start the first one, then the second one will have 4 candidates.
Quickly, Rosalind, just to interrupt you, sorry, Edward, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think the other issue, again, that was of major concern is that these candidates had not agreed on the format, the choice of format of how things are going to work, and the rules of engagement, based on what they witnessed last week, where instead of having a cordial debate, we were having exchanges generating to personal attacks. Look at it when now we have our presidential candidates, maybe one candidate is reducing them to the mud. Surely, what will you be giving? Not only Kenya, because this is something that will go also regionally and maybe internationally.
Right, well, speaking of all the presidential candidates, the Alliance for Real Change candidate Abduba Dida moved to court to challenge his exclusion from the debate, saying it created the impression that he was a second-class contender. The aspirant further argues that organizers have not made public which company conducted the poll, which informed the decision to lock out some contestants. Right, so some of the people that you're accusing of not having any standing, any ideology or manifesto are actually feeling that they should be given an equal chance. On the basis that they are presidential candidates.
On the basis of the process.
Just because you are a presidential candidate, you haven't even launched a manifesto. You have never even held either a door-to-door or even a rally.
How do you know?
You want now to compare.
But you see, Rajab,
it's public domain. Have you seen them campaign?
I have seen a few of them campaigning.
Ekuru Okot, who has launched his manifesto. Others, where are they?
I have seen a few of them
Ekuru has campaigned, has been in Kibera and launched a manifesto which we can really relate with.
But one thing I want to also say about manifestos is that, remember in 2013, Jubilee had a manifesto, a very good manifesto, a glossy, well-written, well-thought-out manifesto, which didn't come to pass in its entirety.
But now we are holding them to account with the manifesto they gave us. At least we have a basis of why we should question, why didn't you deliver these 5 stadiums you promised? Without a manifesto, you can't do that.
That is an indictment in terms of when we look at the manifesto as just another tick in the box through the election process. But what Abduba Dida is raising is the process. He just asks in terms of the process has to be fair, because you cannot... if I am a presidential candidate, there is no law that says I must conduct...
And by the way, these are private entities.
Yes, ideally.
It's not a public entity organizing this debate.
Yes.
So
I
the onus on them to decide who comes to the show.
It's a private affair, but you see, you're dealing with a private affair, but on a public matter, a matter of public interest. So I think in terms of process, he has something to say. I think I need to be included if I am a candidate. Whether I go to do door-to-door or I don't do door-to-door, that is neither here nor there. But if you're calling other people to queue and get a loaf of the bread, surely I've also been in the queue. Don't just exclude me.
All right, final comments, guys. Rosalind, quickly, final comments.
I think I agree with Rajab, because even today I was trying to just dig up on some of these candidates, and I was having difficulties just getting to know one of the candidates, Japheth. The only thing I was getting is that he is from the diaspora. Another one was Mwaura. I couldn't get anything from them. So if I'm a journalist who can't dig any information on a candidate who is wooing 19 million voters to vote for them, what about the organizers who only have maybe 2 hours to listen to all these people?
Rajab, finally.
For me, they have no room to start complaining. If this debate was to be organized and its benefit realized, we need to have top 2 or 3 guys coming to debate. And that we will get even the public to come and really realize and say, anyway, he had promised us that, how will he implement it? But if they're all, they've done polling.
Yeah,
they've done polling. That's why
final
they
comments, Edward, final
I
comments.
think the organizers should be able to do a ballot and break down to 4-4.
Yeah, they've done polling. So
Right,
what's wrong with you guys?
We'll see what. Well, I agree with Edward that due process is important. We must institutions and rules and guidelines must be seen to work. But then, moving back to our Twitter poll question, we asked you: are you concerned about insecurity during the election season following the recent attacks? Are you concerned about insecurity during the election season following the recent attacks? Just to sample one or two of your views here. S.N. Nyamora says that this is worrying, especially when the government is busy campaigning. They should wake up and act. And finally here, Benson Simiyu says yes, they are meant to cause low turnout of voters. Remember, the same was done in 2013. 78% of you there saying yes, and 22% of you saying no to that question about insecurity during the election season. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Julie Masiga. I've been joined by Edward Wanyonyi, Roslyn Obala, and of course Ramadan Rajab. Coming up now is KTN Prime with Ben Kitili and Sophia Wanuna. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week, same time and same place.
KTN News. Get the whole story.
She was South Africa's first black professional social welfare worker. He was a prominent lawyer.